Tony. Thanks so much for taking some time to speak with me today. It's so great to have you on. I am going to ask you just a few questions, and our goal here is to give agents out there some valuable insight into how to be successful selling Medicare.
Okay.
So tell us who you are, the name of your company, a little bit about what you do, and why you love it.
All right. My name's Tony Merwin. I am Executive Marketing Director with Precision Senior Marketing. I've been here for 11 years. I've been in the insurance industry for 17 years. Actually started out as a captive agent, banging on doors, selling cancer treatment products door to door. After about 14 months or so, I was introduced to the Medicare space, and I haven't looked back. I've stayed in it ever since. I've worked as a marketer, an independent agent, and now wholesale broker. I love it because I have a big, I think affinity is the right word I'm looking for. I have an affinity for elderly folks. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents as a kid growing up. Both my grandfather on my mother's side, who I was super tight with, and my grandmother on my father's side, who I would get shipped off to hang out with for the summers, a couple of weeks at a time while my parents did whatever the heck it was they were doing. So I spent a lot of time around the elderly and just really developed a great relationship with them and enjoyed spending time with them. The stories they tell, their experience in the world and the wisdom that they can share is amazing. But it pushed me into the Medicare space because, or maybe something that I really love about the Medicare space and how it can affect and help elderly folks. Because I remember my grandmother, my mom's dad was wealthy. He didn't have any problems. My grandmother on the other side, on my dad's side, she lived on her Social Security check. That was all she had, right? And my dad, had to help with take care of her with some of her apartment rent payments, things like that, so he helped her out quite a bit. And she would always show me her little Social Security check. But she'd hold up there and go, see this? You need to make something of yourself so that you don't just have this to live on. This is all I get, Tony. And I don't remember exactly what the number was. I want to say it was about $660, something like that a month that she got maybe. And it may have been more, maybe less, but that's the number that sticks in my brain. So I just remember, that mentality of her being tight. And so now in the Medicare space, it's important. Obviously, we always love to work with the wealthy seniors because then we can help them with some more things. But it's really important that we don't leave out and we really have an attention to detail in dealing with the folks that are just getting by on the Social Security check. What can we do to help them maximize that? So with them being close to my heart already and understanding the position that some of them are in, I absolutely love the Medicare space and how it allows us to have such a great impact on those folks.
That's awesome. I love listening to, the elderly tell their stories because they have got, and the older they get, the less filter they have.
Yes. Yes.
It can be quite entertaining.
Absolutely. Yeah. They don't have to worry about being embarrassed or offending anybody anymore. They could care less.
They don't care. So when you are trying to reach out to people and, bring in that business, I like to refer to them as money-making activities, to, so that you're not just relying on a Social Security check at the end of your life. You're got something to show for it and you can live quite comfortably.
Absolutely.
So with those money-making activities, when you're helping new agents, what do you ask them to do in terms of prospecting with those money-making activities?
Well, it depends kind of where they are and what type of agent it is. But usually the first thing I do, if it's a brand new agent that I'm talking to, I ask them, number one, what are you doing? Or what are your thoughts on what type of prospecting or marketing you plan to do? Because I want to see where their headspace is at, maybe what they already know or what they don't know. And because sometimes they tell me what they're doing or what they're planning to do. I'm like, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want to do. Great. You might want to add this too. But generally, if they have no ideas, right, then the next question is, what is your budget? Like, how much do you have to spend in marketing every month, right? And then from there, and then now we can look at marketing activities and prospecting or lead generation activities that are going to fit that budget and give you the ROI you need to continue. So if it's a guy that's coming from an extremely small budget, right, as low as zero in some cases, but if they can at least scrape together a few $100, they can get a list pretty easy. right? And then they can, if they have to self-dial, they have to self-dial, but ultimately, the best thing to do if you're a cold call machine is to plug into a dialer. And
Yep.
I will say, and I know that you didn't bring me here to do this, but I'm going to tell you that every agent that I've spoken to that I know is productive, I know makes money as a producer and is one of those guys that loves to smile and dial. If they're using dialers, all the guys I know that are reputable, they're using ProspectBoss. So, and I know you guys have a phenomenal tool. I don't want to cold call, and I'm not a cold caller, right? And if I went back out in the field, that would be the last thing that I would try to do. But it just varies. But when it comes to prospecting, you have to find, number one, a method that's going to match how you want to meet the client. And that's changed a little bit with COVID because now everybody's become so much more open to doing virtual sales and phone sales, which certainly helps a system like yours with guys that do want to smile and dial and just generate leads right over the phone and close them. But ultimately, your prospecting method tends to have to match up with the way you want to meet your client in your sales process, whether you're out in the field or you're just doing virtual sales. So first thing I try to find out, number one, is what are their ideas? Let me see where their headspace is at. Number two, what is their budget? And then we look at prospecting methods to match up to that budget. And then beyond that, it's just activity, right? You have to stay involved, not only with your marketing and keep it active, but you have to be involved behind it if you're going to make it succeed.
Right. So that kind of leads us into the next question, which is, what should a typical day of prospecting look like? So do you recommend that they take 1 or 2 days a week and just focus on prospecting? Or do you prefer them to take, a certain number of hours every day to prospect? How do you prefer them to work that?
It's going to depend on where they are in the business, for one. And again, what are their prospecting methods? So let's take a guy that has no book of business. Okay. He should be prospecting all the time, 8 to 10 hours a day until you're getting sales and you have service problems. You should 100% prospecting is all you're doing. And even once you get to a point where now I have some service and I have leads coming in where I'm setting appointments, then you're going to have to learn to block time so that you can absolutely set aside time where it's just stone cold prospecting. And that, whether that's a couple of days a week, right? So this is the way I did it when I was selling in the field, because I cold called for appointments and then I ran appointments.
Okay.
So I usually had 2 solid days that were booked for nothing but prospecting. That's all I did. My other 3 to 4 days were out in the field selling, and that's it. Right. So I had 16 hours to 20 hours where I was just sitting there pounding the phone, trying to find people that wanted to book appointments with me and doing follow-ups to get those appointments. Then the other 4 days of the week were me out in the field selling. Right. So, and then the further you get along as your book of business gets bigger, you can't just stop prospecting. You have to continue it out there. So again, what is your method? If your prospecting method is mailers, that's great. You still have to call those mailers. So as your mailers come in, you need to book some time in that point, probably every day, to sit there and work on getting your leads down, following up on your mailers, getting your appointment set, or closing business over the phone, whichever one it is. But the best thing I've always found is to absolutely set aside a block of time that you can maximize your prospecting efforts. And there's 2 reasons why. One, if you don't dedicate time to it, you're going to have trouble doing it. Number one, because you're going to find ways to distract yourself and make excuses like, oh no, let me work on my Canva project instead, whatever it might be. So you have to absolutely dedicate a block of time. Also, by taking that block and batching all of your prospecting into that block, you'll be able to do it more efficiently, because you're just sitting there one after the other, calling your leads or calling your list or whatever it is. So not only are you going to get through more of those calls in one segment, but you're going to perform them at the top of your game, because you're doing it over and over and over. It's a repetitious activity, and repetition certainly works. So if you're bought into what you're doing in your prospecting, doing the same activity over and over and over creates a consistency and a pattern, and you'll be able to knock out those calls at not only more efficiently, but at the top of your level, right? So you'll be more effective and more efficient as well.
Right. It's that whole practice makes perfect thing. The more you do it, the more confident you're going to feel, the more deals you'll close, because your confidence is going to come through. It's going to show.
100%.
And you made a really good point with the consistency, because I've heard a lot of people, they start hardcore prospecting in the beginning, and then once they get a good book of business, they just let it slide.
Yeah.
And then
They start getting lazy.
right. And then 2 weeks later, they're struggling for appointments because they didn't make those calls still.
Correct. You always
So
have to keep that pipeline full constantly.
yeah,
You're constantly adding people to the front end of the pipeline as it works its way through.
yes. So it's, those money making activities that you're doing today, it might not give you a paycheck today, but it's certainly going to help give you a paycheck in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month down the road. And if you're
Absolutely.
not being consistent with it, you're going to lose a lot of money. Your pipeline's going to
Absolutely.
dry up, and you just won't have any leads to call.
Correct.
Okay. So you mentioned, what type of business do you want to do with your leads? So, and that determines, what kind of prospecting you want to do. So with ProspectBoss, like, you can call, you can text, you can email, you can video conference with prospects now. And I know that the best way to prospect is the way that you're actually using.
Yeah.
So, texting can work if you're doing it. Calling can work if you're doing it. Emailing can work if you're doing it. Sometimes there's a combination, though, that works better than just focusing on one single method. So would you say that there's a combination of methods that you would say is a better fit for the Medicare industry in particular? So do you find that mailers and then calling and then emailing works better?
You definitely want to touch your clients in as many fashions as you can, right? So in the new agency that I've started up with my wife, basically what we're doing is one of our primary staples is mailers, right? So we're constantly sending out mailers every month. We have a set budget. We know exactly what kind of results we're going to get from them, but that's just one lead flow that we have coming in. We also are doing Facebook leads to bring those in. So we have a digital and a kind of a more traditional method, right? Third is kind of referrals, right? So that's how we try to get ourselves in front of prospects. But as we get those leads come in, whether they be through Facebook or through the direct mail, at least for the people that fill out the direct mail card, including their email and a cell phone, we will plug those items into an automated workflow so that we can hit more touch points.
Okay.
It's easier with the Facebook leads because we get all that information immediately. We get their name, their phone number, their mailing address, and their email. Okay. Right. So that all dumps into a system that immediately, as soon as they hit submit on that lead, it drops a recorded voicemail on their phone, on their cell phone.
Okay.
It sends them a text and it sends them an email. And then meanwhile, my agent's trying to get them on the phone. So if they respond back through any of those methods, then we reply back through that same method. We meet them on the common ground that the client is comfortable, right? So if our auto text touch point is the one that starts the conversation actually before we can get them on the phone, we're not just going to keep calling them because they've shown us like, no, this is the way I want to talk to you right now. So then we just start that conversation there. If they respond back to email, then we start the conversation there, right? But yes, you cannot just have, this is the only way to do it and the one way to do it, because you're going to limit yourself to the prospects that are willing to respond to that medium, right? I've always thought of prospecting and marketing and lead generation as the legs that support your table being your business. The more legs you have under it, the more stable your table is. Tables never stand on one leg, right? They will eventually teeter over. So think about your different outreach that you're doing with your clients and look at them as the legs on your table and understand that you have to diversify.
Right. That's really smart to incorporate all the different methods, because that gives the prospect the way to show you how they want to be contacted and communicate, which is, really great, because some people don't like talking on the phone. Some people prefer text. Some people don't want to do that. They prefer email because they can keep a record of it. And so that's really, I really like that, giving them the option to show you how they want to be contacted. It's really great.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone who is brand new in the Medicare world, even if it doesn't pertain to prospecting, just in selling Medicare in general?
That'll depend a little bit if they're brand new to Medicare, but their experience as an insurance agent already, and it's just a new product for them. Or if they are just brand new to insurance and Medicare, that advice might be a little bit different, right?
Right.
Because I've definitely worked with both. So, I mean, if it's the PNC guy, for example, and he has an established business and he's decided that as his book has been aging, he's now seeing that Medicare is an opportunity, then his method's gonna be a little different. The first thing he needs to do is introduce himself to his book of business. Now, hey, we're now doing Medicare, right? Write a great letter that's branded, get that out to them, right? And then maybe hire somebody that can also do some outreach. If it is a brand new person to insurance and Medicare, then I would say, number one, find you a great mentor that can help you, whether that mentor be your FMO, broker, upline, whatever language you want to use there or not. Find you a good mentor and get yourself with someone that can help guide you. I've seen very few agents, and actually, I'll be blatantly honest, in 17 years of doing it myself and working with agents, I can pretty much guarantee I've met one guy that is brand new to insurance, brand new to Medicare, who was able to succeed with nothing but a mentor that taught him the industry of Medicare. He came and he had his own marketing plan. He knew exactly what he was going to do when he came into the business. He's like, this is what I'm going to do. He ran it by me. He's like, do you think this holds water? And I'm like, I think it holds water. That's going to work if you have the money to support it. And then you have the work ethic to support that marketing system as well. And he's absolutely blowing it out of the water. Those guys are extremely rare in the business. Usually, if you're brand new to insurance and Medicare, you need someone to really show you the ropes, kind of keep you close to the vest and show you the way until you can really get up on your own 2 feet. So ultimately, I think it's find a good mentor that can really show you the business properly. Because it's just really hard to come in here completely blind, completely green, wet behind the ears, tackle understanding insurance and tackle understanding Medicare. I mean, you have to have an extremely strong sales and marketing background and knowing how to run your business to be able to say, okay, now all I really need is just to understand how Medicare works. And you can self-study that. You can watch videos on it, read books, whatever you want, or just talk to someone on the phone to understand the basics of Medicare. But if you're completely wet behind the ears, you need a mentor. You need someone to guide you.
Yeah. I've noticed, being part of a lot of y'all's groups on Facebook, there is an amazing support system. And I mean, there are several really, really good mentors that, just that I know personally from being in these groups and seeing the contribution that they just for free, do their podcasts, and they do, all kinds of things that just give that information. And then, any one of them would be fantastic at being a mentor, because they're so compassionate and they're so like they want to see other agents succeed, which is rare in a competitive business like insurance, where each person wants a slice of that pie. And so, seeing, especially, we went to Medicare Con and seeing all of those agents that just all they want is for you to succeed.
Yep.
That was an experience. I loved going there and seeing that camaraderie and all.
I agreed. It was, it was fairly mind blowing even for me. Or I would maybe say especially for me, even though I was one of the heavy participants in it, because being in the industry for 17 years, that stuff didn't exist. It didn't exist 3 years ago.
Right.
I mean, technically, it didn't even exist 2 years ago. Medicare Con's brand new, just started this year. But those events, I really look at a guy like Cody Askins as kind of ground zero for starting that wave of events that people get together and share information transparently, right? 17 years ago, that absolutely was non-existent. I was left out in the cold, as most agents were. Your broker and your upline or your mentor, or whatever you want to call them, they wanted you to succeed. They just didn't want to spend the energy to help you.
Exactly.
There was like, well, here's a book, go, there's your territory, go knock on doors, just do the deal, as I've said before, and that was it. But now you actually have people that really understand that the Medicare space especially is so ridiculously big.
Yeah.
We don't even have enough agents to service it in the first place, much less to bicker and fight over it and restrict information on what it takes to succeed.
Yeah.
So it's really refreshing to see this. I've actually been longing for this new wave of transparency for a long time, and I love seeing it. It's awesome.
It is awesome. I was really impressed with just the flow of information and how freely it was passed. It was just, I want to help you. How can I help you? It was fantastic.
Absolutely.
So, but in any line of work, with, whether it's Medicare or, any kind of self-employment type business where you are responsible for bringing your business in, there's always the question of how do you manage your work-life balance? So I know that you and your wife work together with this now. And so sometimes I imagine there's a little bit of crossover. When you're at home in your personal life, y'all are still talking about different things in the business, probably. But do you have any secrets that you can tell us about how to manage that really well and just make sure that you're not, bringing work stress home or home stress to work?
One of my early mentors taught me a long time ago when it came to learning to leave your home stress at home and don't bring it in the office. And this is when I was really young and brand new in sales in my early 20s, basically doing outdoor sales. She said, I want you guys all to imagine that there is what I would call a problem tree sitting at the front door of the office. And when you come in, you can take off your jacket of problems and hang them on that tree. They will still be there for you when you want to go home. But while you're here, you're going to leave them right there.
Okay.
I was like, okay, and that's kind of a silly analogy, but if you're young, you understand what it means.
Yeah.
But then at the same token, you have to take that same thought process when you go home. Don't bring your work home with you, right? Even
Right.
if you're really going home to be with your family, with your loved ones, don't come in and just unload all of that. Like same concept. Take your jacket of problems off, hang them up on your problem tree at your front door when you get home. Leave them there. They'll be there for you when you're ready for them again to take them back to the office with you. I was actually having a conversation with Dallas Keithley of Secure Agent Marketing yesterday, and he was talking to me about this a little bit because he has a family, and like how do I manage my time properly when I'm working with agents and recruiting them, and they are constantly pulling at me and needing my time. Like how to, my family's starting to look at me and be like, yo, we need you too.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, I can't fully relate to that because I don't have children. So for me and my wife, it's a little bit easier. But I will say there are some times where my wife is looking at me going, I appreciate that you work really, that you use a lot of your business and communicate with your agents through tools like Facebook. But sometimes you just need to put that thing down and be with me and be present with me. And it takes some discipline, right? It takes a little bit of acceptance and letting go, because I guarantee it will all still be there later. It's not going anywhere.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
And you just have to really understand that. And and sometimes, especially if you have a really busy workload and family life, it may come down to booking certain times. Like for a period of time, there is a certain night of the week that is date night for me and my wife. No exceptions. No, unless date night is Netflix and chill, usually we go out. But that time is blocked off. There is no phones. There's no other distractions. It is just the two of us enjoying time together. That's it. Whether we go out or we stay inside, it doesn't matter. Everything else gets turned off.
That's awesome.
And then Sundays are dedicated to my wife for the most part. Occasionally we'll change that, but for the most part, right? There was a couple of days a week where we're absolutely dedicated, where it's just the two of us enjoying our time together. And then the rest of it is working. Or not the rest of it, but we're allowed to do what we want and kind of work from there. It's a little easier now that we're also both in the business, right? She just started last May, so she's working. So usually by the time I get out of the office at PSM and I go home to work onto the projects there with her, she's still working and doing her thing. Like I wouldn't say she works longer hours than me, but she's pretty close. My difference is that I do a lot of networking through social media and through other platforms that I don't know if you really call it work, but I mean, it is work, right? It's still working on your business in some form. It's just a little different. You're not trying to conduct sales, but like the other night, was it Wednesday night? We have the insurance influencers clubhouse meeting going on, and I was moderating it, and I joined at 7:00 p.m. sharp, and I didn't shut it down until midnight.
Wow.
And that wasn't by my choice. It wasn't like, I'm going to keep all of you here till midnight. They just kept rolling with great content. And I was just exchanging with speakers and helping connect people on there. But by the time midnight came around, I told them, like, hey guys, I love y'all. But, you know, I've been working for about 14 hours a day. I got to go to bed. So adios.
Yeah.
And then that was about the time it kind of wrapped up anyway. But and then the next morning, she's like, she just asked me, she didn't say anything derogatory, but she's like, so how long was that meeting last night? I was like, I wrapped it up at midnight. She's like, wow. She's like, you got to be tired today. It's like, I'm a little tired.
Yep, a little bit. All right, Tony, we're going to wrap it up. Do you have any last piece of advice for the agents out there that are watching us?
Plan your work. Number one, especially if you're watching this for any reason that you might have an issue with really buckling down on prospecting and doing it well, just create a schedule for yourself and work that schedule. Like, really put it together, be very detailed about how you do it. These are the days and the times I do this activity. These are the days and the times I do these activities. And that's exactly how it works. And that's the only way it works. And be disciplined and hold yourself to it. Right. That's one of the, especially if you're new in the business, and actually not just if you're new in the business, if you've been in the business a while and you're starting to have all these different activities. Oh, I have prospecting I have to do. I have people calling me for service work I have to do. I have these other inbound leads I have to work. I have appointments that I got to run. Oh, and I got to do my customer service work too, and write my thank you cards or whatever those things are. It's really important that you create a schedule that you can absolutely manage yourself by, because it's going to be really hard to manage yourself otherwise. If you're just allowing your day to run yourself chaotically, you're going to burn yourself out quicker. You're going to be more distracted. Your business isn't going to run well, and ultimately your business will move downhill because you're not paying attention to the activities that you need to do. But everything that you do within your schedule has to allow you to do the number one most important thing that you're always doing, and that's focus on revenue. Mm-hmm. Everything that you do has to allow you to spend time focusing on revenue to generate money for your business, or your business ultimately will be stagnant or fail. And that revolves around a schedule, in my opinion.
Excellent advice. It's kind of a question of, are you running your day or is your day running you?
100%. 100%. You know, my dad used to tell me that when you work for yourself, which insurance agents, majority of them do if you're an independent broker, you have an idiot for employee and a jerk for a boss. and that's true. And you have to kind of think of yourself that way. I'm an idiot, so I have to kind of be a jerk to myself to keep myself disciplined and on schedule. But, you know, the key to managing yourself properly is creating a schedule, be disciplined, and just follow it. Everything else will fall into place.
Awesome. Tony, give us a way to get in touch with you.
Honestly, one of the best ways to find me easiest is on Facebook. Just search Tony Merwin. You'll pop right up. I'm all over LinkedIn as well. But you can reach me best by phone, toll free, 800-998-7715. Just press 0, ask for Tony. I'm the only Tony there. But reach out to me if I can answer questions, if I can help. Just give me a holler, man. That's what I'm here for.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Agents, now that you know how prospecting can help your business, go take a look at ProspectBoss.com and then go check out Tony Merwin as well.